Um, so I think yesterday we discussed about record creation, exporting the records. We also talked something about performing a VLOOKUP and how it can help us in some real scenarios on, especially in finding an account ID when account name is given. In the same way, sometimes when you're analyzing something, you might have an account ID and, account name has to be found out, things like that. Like you can use this for numerous use cases in any kind of data analysis that you're doing. And this is like the most common technique. I mean, there are other formulas too in Excel where we write like concatenations, if conditions and all that. But this is one that's really helpful in figuring out or getting the ID that is needed. Remember when I started, when we initially started, I think one of the things that I said is ID would be the developer or admin's best friend. Like whenever we see a record, you see this ID, right? The ID is the admin or developer's, especially developer's best friend, because no matter whatever you want to do, if you have an ID of the record, that's it. You're good. You can do anything. I mean, let's say a user complains saying, hey, I'm unable to do this. I'm unable to see this information and all. Then what you will ask is, hey, can you send the URL of the page that you're seeing? So they will just send the URL. From this URL, you'll know the ID. Or like if you are talking to some admins or business analysts who know what they're talking about, hey, can you send me the ID of the record? So when you get the ID of the record, you'll just paste the ID. So the ID, I mean, the name itself is identification. So when you have that ID, the 18-digit ID or the 15-digit ID, I mean, Salesforce have two IDs, which is nothing but 18-digit ID and 15-digit ID. The difference is 18-digit ID is case insensitive, whereas 15-digit ID is case sensitive. That's the difference. But usually in the database, in the backend, Salesforce always stores the 18-digit ID. But sometimes you'll also get the 15-digit ID, but it's not. When you run a report, you get the 15-digit ID, but it doesn't. 15-digit ID is case sensitive, whereas 18-digit ID is case insensitive. In most cases, we use the 18-digit ID. I mean, it doesn't matter whatever we use, but when you query or when you write code, if you are trying to access everything, or if you try to query the database directly, you'll always get the 18-digit ID. Okay, I mean that's not an important thing, but so the ID is an important thing, and Salesforce have built a lot of functionalities around these IDs. For example, yesterday the moment we created the record in the success error log, if you have noticed, I go to the data loader, and in the success error log, if you open the success log, you see a record created and an ID is automatically generated, and the file also contains the ID that is being generated. So that's the importance of ID. Like the ID field will help us to locate the record whatever we want in a very quick way. Okay. Now we'll find so many other use cases as well, but let's see let's see the update operation. Okay. Yesterday what we have seen is we saw the insert operation. Insert operation is nothing but we saw how to insert records in Salesforce. Now what we want to do is we want to update records in Salesforce. So I just want to know how we update records in Salesforce. Okay. So for example, let's take contacts as an example, or let's just take opportunities. It doesn't matter whatever it is. Let's just take opportunities as an example. So in opportunity, let's update lead source. Okay, let's update lead source of all opportunities to be web. Okay, so right now, what you call the opportunities does not have a lead source, but let's make sure to update the lead source of all opportunities to be web. Okay, how do we do that? We want to update existing records. Okay, So the requirement for us is to update existing records. What is the important thing that is needed to update a record? Like we need an ID, in order to prepare our Excel sheet. Like our goal is to update all opportunities with the lead source as web. How do you identify? How do you update a record? Only when you know which record you want to update. That's when that's when you will be able to make changes, right? So how do you know? How do you what is the important thing that we need in order to update the record? The ID is the important thing that we need. So what we'll do is, first let's go to data loader. Let's just query the data. Okay, I'll just say opportunity ID extract. Okay, I just want ID and lead source. I just want ID and lead source from opportunity. I click it. So I get 40, I have 40 records in the system. So if I go to data loader, let me check opportunity ID extract. And if you see, I got the 18-digit ID and I got all these, purchase. These are the existing records I have. Now what I want to do, I want to update everything to web. Okay. So what I'll just do is, so all these records, if I open this record, you will notice that this record has the lead source as trade show, but our goal is to update everything to say web. So I'll just make everything as web here. Okay. So this is the ID. Like if you might see they are very similar, but if you see 3QA, 4QA, 5Q, 6, 7, 8, each ID is different. So we have almost 40 rows of data we have the ID and we have the web. So now, because we have the ID, what does this indicate? We are telling Salesforce, hey, for this record, the lead source is web. For this record, the lead source is web. So Salesforce can easily identify which row it is and update the column value in that. That's why ID is mandatory. Imagine without this, how would we even update a record? We cannot even update a record, right? Without having an ID, there is absolutely no way that we can update a record because, the ID is the unique identifier of the primary key that helps us to identify the record, and Salesforce only identify. There are other ways too, but the most important way that Salesforce identifies the record is using the ID. So in order to perform a data load or in order to perform some updates, we have to know the ID of the record. So let's just perform the update operation. The update will be an opportunity object. And then, I need to save this, right? Sorry. I'll just say opportunity lead source update.csv. I'm just storing it as opportunity lead source update.csv. Now, okay, I choose opportunity. Let me cancel this. I choose update operation in the data loader. I choose opportunity, opportunity lead source update. Next. Okay. I just auto match map to columns, which we all know. So in this screen, we just auto match ID to ID and lead source to lead source. Click next. This is the directory where error logs will be stored. Click finish. So it's performing the updates. You see all 40 records got updated successfully. So if we go here and just refresh, right now it is showing trade show, but if I refresh this, you will notice that it is web. Now you can query any opportunity because we updated it for all the records. If I open any opportunity, it would always say web because, you know, I queried the opportunities and then I updated the lead source to be web. Okay. If I want to update other fields, I'll just say, you know, on opportunity, you might have name, like any field. If you want to update any field, sorry, not this one. If you want to update any field, you can go to the object manager. Like, you know, let's say you want to update type or you want to update tracking number. Let's say, let's try to update tracking number. Now we got another requirement where we have to update the tracking number. So, okay, let's say we got another requirement where we have to update the tracking number. So I'll go to setup, objects, opportunity, fields. I'll take the tracking number. You see, I always go to the API number and API name and take it. So I go here. We already have the IDs. So this is the mistake some people commonly make. See, our requirement is to only update tracking number, right? So do not have lead source field here. Like, okay, let's say I'll update the tracking number to be like this. Okay, let's assume the same tracking number for everything. So I can have a file like this. Okay, let me just say I'll have another file like tracking number update. Okay, so now I go to data loader, click update, opportunity, tracking number update. Next, 40 records. Now, if I, you know, accidentally, if I do this, you see, lead source is mapping to lead source, tracking number is mapping to tracking number. But what is our goal? Our goal, our requirement was to only update tracking number. You know, we shouldn't even map the lead source, okay? So you can have the lead source column in your Excel sheet. Just because you have the lead source column in the Excel sheet doesn't mean it's going to get mapped to Salesforce automatically. What we are doing is, we click auto match. When we auto match, this lead source came here, but now I'm just manually removing the lead source. I'm saying for this ID, just consider the track number. Though in Excel sheet the lead source is there, do not map it to a Salesforce field. This way you're safe. You know, you're not making any unwanted updates. Remember, I told you an example where a user was trying to, like one of our system admin was trying to do a data load. So on the user object, like, you know, on the user object, we have an email field and also some number field, employee number field. The system admin was supposed to update only employee number field. He was not supposed to update the email field. But just like this, he exported data from Salesforce. He performed the data load. Like while performing, he clicked auto match. It matched with email to email, employee number to employee number, clicked OK and performed the data load. And, you know, because there was some logic on change of email address, everybody got the email, like, you know, everybody got an email notification, the CEOs, CFOs, everybody, and it became a big issue. Now, you know, was it a mistake? Yes. Why was it done? Because he was working on the whole file. He wanted email address to find the ID. Like what he has done is, he had an Excel sheet. He got the email address. Based on the email address, he got the employee number. And, you know, he did a VLOOKUP to get the user ID. Because using the email address, he did a VLOOKUP to get the user 18-digit ID. Good. That part is good. But he was not supposed to do any update operation on the email field. So, but by mistake, like, you know, he did this. So the email got matched to email. This one got to missed. He continued. So there was nothing wrong. The data did not get corrupted, but there was an email logic, you know, using process builder. There was a logic that was written on the email field that every time the email is changed, send an email, you know, send an alert or something like that. There was some logic that was present and that got kicked off, causing an issue. So that's why if you don't want, only always map to the wanted fields that you want. Do not accidentally map to unwanted fields. Okay. It's better to remove from the Excel, but if you do not remove, it's okay. Just make sure you do the right thing while mapping. Okay, so I have the tracking number, I have the ID, then I click finish. So 40 successes. So if I go back to Salesforce, the tracking number was empty, but if I refresh, I got the tracking number updated. So if I open any opportunity, you will notice the same, the tracking number got updated. Okay. Okay. Any questions so far on the update operation? In order to perform the update, what is the important thing? ID, record ID. Okay. Without having the record ID, you will not be able to perform the update operation. That's number one. So now, whenever your BAs or anybody give you the document to load it into Salesforce to perform an update perform update into Salesforce, one thing you need to do is look at the document and say and think yourself, how could I update it? How do I know each row? Like, let's say they are not technical people, right? They wouldn't know that they have to give you this. Okay, imagine they gave you a file like this. They said, imagine these are different values and stuff, and they say they give you a file like this and say, hey, can you update the lead source and tracking number? Would you do this work, or would you ask them a question? Like, imagine you got a file like this exactly with these two columns, and they said, can you update the lead source and tracking number for based on this file? Okay, so your first and foremost question should be, yes, I can, but how do I know what is what? Like this row, how do I know which opportunity is this? Which opportunity is this one? We do not know, right? Just because they gave a file doesn't mean it happened. So they have to give some kind of identifier for us. Either they will have to give the 18-digit ID of Salesforce, or at least if they give the name of the opportunity, like, at least if they give the name of the opportunity, we can try. We cannot guarantee, but we can try. At least if they give the name, you will do a VLOOKUP against the name of the opportunity with the 18-digit ID, have the ID column and populate. But sometimes there can be 2 or 3 opportunities with the same name. In that case, your VLOOKUP wouldn't work, because if 2, 3 opportunities have the same name, Excel will not be able to identify which one to put, right? So that's why name may not be a useful value, but if the names are unique, like if all the names are unique, yeah, absolutely, using the name, you'll be able to do a VLOOKUP, get the ID, and perform the data update. But if they don't give you the name, they just give you a random file with some field values populated, and they say, hey, you know what, can you make an update for me? No, you will not be able to make an update, because you do not know. Looking at this, you do not know which row they are talking about. Whereas in this scenario, now would you be able to perform an update? Absolutely, because you exactly know which opportunity. Using the ID, we exactly know which opportunity that they are referring to and which exact record that we are performing the update on. Okay? Any questions, guys, on the update operation? Okay, now I got the requirement again. They said, hey, you know what, we made a mistake. Let's make null here. So they said the lead source should be null and tracking number should be null. How do we do it? Like, we go here, clear contents. I go here, clear contents. Let me just save this. Tracking number and lead source null update. Okay, so let's say they just wanted to, like, they thought, you know what, let's just nullify these values. We don't want the lead source and tracking number. Let's just nullify these values. Okay, I'll try to update opportunity I'll just do auto match. Success error log destination. Click yes. So it said successful 40 entries. Now I go check the opportunity. It should be lead source should be null and also tracking number should be null. But if I check this, you will notice that they are not null. You know, even though I did it as null, I loaded the file as like this. But when I checked it, the tracking number and lead source are not null. The reason being, let me go to settings here. Like if you go to settings, there is an option called insert null values. Okay, so there is an option called insert null values. So Salesforce, what it does is, I mean, unless you check that checkbox called insert null values in the setting, the field values won't be changed. Like, see, here is the concept. If you say this is XYZ, if you say this is this one, Salesforce will respect it. You know, if you perform the update, this would become XYZ, this tracking number would become. But now what did we do here? We just nullified the columns and we tried to perform the update. When we nullify the columns and try to perform the update, the data won't be null automatically. It's just an extra check. What if, you didn't notice, what if you didn't notice, you accidentally marked, you accidentally added a column and mapped it, and, the whole data will be erased off, right? So that's why Salesforce has an additional check that you see, you need to come here, check insert null values, say OK, then perform the update, okay? Because I updated I need a reset security token. What the heck? This is login. I copied it correctly. Maybe I made a mistake in copying. So now I want to perform the update on the opportunity. Null update. Next. Okay. Okay. Now the perform data update is done. If I go to an opportunity now, let me go to an opportunity. If I open it now, you will notice the tracking number is null and lead source is null. So the point that I wanted to say is, if you want to insert null values, make sure you check this checkbox. If you don't want to, usually I would keep this as not checked, but like when you perform if you're trying to clear out a value, you get a requirement like, hey, can you clear out those values? So in order to clear out the values, you have to use allow null values, like, option to be unchecked, and that's when you will be able to perform the update. Okay. Any questions, guys, on the update? Okay. Now, you want to delete the opportunities. Can anyone tell me what do we need? Like, let's say I want to delete all opportunities that are present in the system. What should I do to be able to delete the opportunities? Like, what are the columns that we need? Like, what would be the information that we need to be able to delete an opportunity? Okay. All we need is an ID like this. Like, all we need, if we have the ID, I don't need anything, right? I'll be able to simply perform the delete operation. If I have the ID, so these are all the opportunities that are present in the system. I'll just say save as opportunities to delete dot csv. All I need is this ID, like the opportunity ID. So I go here, I have the data load delete. Oh, come on. Opportunity, browse. I'll just say opportunities to delete. All I have is one column in that opportunity to delete, just the ID column. It says 40 records. You don't have to, like, easy. Even for auto matching, Salesforce is only showing one column. You see here, even if you have multiple columns, it doesn't matter, because for delete operation, it is only showing one column. So I just choose this. Okay, next, finish. See, all 40 records are deleted now. So if you refresh this, you see, looks like there is a problem. It may have been deleted by another user. Like, so now if I go to all opportunities, you wouldn't find anything because all the records in the system got deleted. Okay. So of course, for delete, all you need is just the ID, because the moment I know the ID, we are able to locate Salesforce. When we perform a data loader, Salesforce is able to locate that record and even remove that record from the database. So delete is easy as long as you ID. See, that's the thing. I mean, ID is always our best friend. Like, what would we be doing even through code or through process builder? The goal of any application is to create data, modify data, remove data, right? Like any application, whatever form the data is collected, everybody is trying to create the data or update the data or delete the data. That's the thing. I mean, the goal of any application is that. Okay, creating the data, presenting the data in the user interface, updating the data or deleting the data. Now, for all these things, when you create the data, you get an ID generator. If you want to update some data, you need an ID. If you want to delete the data, you need an ID. Like, so that's why even if you are trying to do some coding, ID would be your best friend, because, like any code that we write, any logic that we write, we will always be writing based on the IDs. Okay. Any question here so far? Okay. Now, I want to talk about Upsert operation. You see here, okay, let's talk about this one. Hard delete, it is disabled, but if you want to enable, we need some permissions, we need all those things. But you better don't even learn what hard delete is. I mean, it's very simple. Hard delete is nothing but if you do a hard delete, the records will not even be stored in the recycle bin. Now we deleted 40 records, right? If you go and check in the recycle bin, you will have all those 40 records in the recycle bin. But if you perform hard delete, the records will not even be in the recycle bin. They will all be removed. Now, because it is dangerous, it's been defaulted. Now you need to have some permissions to be able to enable it. Like, so why to even bother about it when it is so dangerous? Why to even bother about it? So we won't use hard delete function at all. So delete, of course, you are able to delete the records. Export, you are able to export the records. Export all, you will be able to export the records from the database that are also in the recycle bin. Now, insert is nothing but you are trying to create records in the system. Update, you are trying to update the existing data. Now, what is meant by upsert? Can anybody make a guess? What is meant by upsert? See, upsert is a combination of insert plus update. That's why the name upsert. Okay. So, like in one shot, okay, you can create records as well as update records. That means if you already have a record, it gets updated. If you don't have a record, it gets created. You know, that's the concept of upsert. Okay. So let's see an example. Okay. Let's perform an upsert operation on the contacts. Okay. Let me export some contacts first. Okay, I'll just get the ID, account ID, last name, first name, title. Okay. I'll just say limit 10. Finish. So if we refresh our success error log, sorry, we have contact export for us. Okay. So we see we got these records. Okay. Title and all that stuff. Now, what I would do is, okay, I will update all the titles to be CEO. I will keep the names as it is. I'll update all the titles to be CEO. Then I'll do this. Okay. Now you see in this file, what I have is I have this ID. Like, you know, these are the 10 records that are already existing in the system. So all I did is I updated the title to CEO, like until here. Now, if you see this, I think there are 10 more records where I'm trying to create brand new, because you see this ID, these records already exist in the system. Now, these records do not exist in the system. So what I'm trying to do is I want these records to be updated and these records to be created. Okay. So because like I can do it in two operations. One, I can create a separate file and perform an insert of like the insert operation, and I can perform an update operation on this file. But now, you know, if I want to do both of them in one shot, I can just perform an upsert operation. So I'll just say yes. I'll do upsert on contact. So the name will be, what did I say? Contact export. That's the file. I'll say next. Okay. You see this? Select the field for matching on contact. How do we know? Like, how does Salesforce know whether a record exists in the system versus, like, you know, you see, our goal is to insert these and update this. How would Salesforce know that which one to update and which one to insert? We are doing a match against ID. What we are saying is, hey, you know, in the Excel sheet, I'm supplying you the ID. If you find the ID in the system, update it. If you don't find the ID in the system, create it. Okay. So I'll just auto match. Finish. Okay, 20 successes. Now, let's look at the success error log. If you look at the success error log, if you notice the status, you see all the records now have an ID. And if you notice this, you see item updated till here. And if you notice, these are items created. Okay, so that means if I go to this record, I can go to this record in the system. So this is the new record that I just created. Like, this is just created right now. Whereas, if you go to this record, we just updated the title to CEO. So if I go to that record, we just updated. Like, this was created long back, but it is just updated now. So within one shot, within one shot, what we are trying to do is, we are trying to, the name itself suggests it's upsert operation. Okay, it is a combination of insert plus update, and hence it's upsert operation. So you will be able to perform insert and update in the same shot. Okay, so that's upsert operation. Any questions? Now, again, the goal is I will not be able to make you perfect in data loader within this specific time, but the goal is to help you. Okay, what are some of the settings that we have here? What are the things that we can do? What are some of the problems that we can face? How do you organize yourself during data loader? I mean, this is still lazy organizing, but I want, I would expect you to be, where is this? Yeah, I would expect you to be more like if you're working on multiple projects, maybe create one folder for a project, or see, this process works for me. This is not, Salesforce didn't say, hey, in order to use data loader, you need to create a folder or nothing like that. It's not Salesforce process. This process works better for me. So that's why I create it and I name my files in a way that I can identify them even after 6 months. I can come back and say, oh, you know what? We did this data load for this purpose. I just try to update the name of the file to help me understand that. Then, we need to know what is export all, insert, update, delete, upsert as well. And I want you to realize the importance of the 18-digit ID. 18-digit ID, what does it do? And the other, how it is important for updating the records and deleting the records, how that 18-digit ID is so important. And I also want you guys to realize the fact that, when the account ID, especially like account ID or any lookups, okay, lookups like this, though they show name in the front end, in the back end, they are storing the 18-digit ID. So if you are performing the data load for, in a parent-child object scenario, if you are loading the child object, you need to make sure to include the 18-digit ID instead of the name, actual name of the record, okay? And we also saw some scenarios where, people will give you the name of the record and you have to find the ID from it, okay? Performing some VLOOKUPs. So I introduced you guys the concept of VLOOKUP, and I told you some scenarios, how it is useful. But, again, this is all an introduction. Every scenario is different, but you should be able to build upon from this. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay. Now, can you tell me, I have a scenario. I just want to hear your thoughts. Please speak up, okay? I just want to hear your thoughts on how you would deal with this, okay? Let's say, which table should I take as example? Okay. Let's say we have opportunities. Okay, let's assume we have opportunities. Let's assume you guys already have a CRM application. Like, you guys already have an application. And, when I say application, you might have a database. Of course, you will have a database associated with it. And you have been using this database for like 10 years. Okay. And you have all your opportunity data in that database. Now, what you want to do is you want to move this data. Like, you want to move all this opportunity data from your database into Salesforce. Okay. So, of course, what would you do? You would, you will map the fields. You will get you will create the template with the name, what is the stage name, what is the close date, what is the description, what is the tracking number. With all the information, you will prepare the template. You will populate your, you will get the data. You will get the data dump from your existing application, prepare the file, and then load the file so that all the data will be loaded into Salesforce. Now, my question is, in a real-time scenario, right? It's not that straightforward. When I say it's not that straightforward, in a real enterprise live application, you are using some application for 10 years. Now you are moving over your data into a completely different application. Now, these things do not happen overnight, right? So in reality, what would happen? First, you will build Salesforce. You will start moving the data from your legacy system into Salesforce. For a few days, you will keep both systems. You will keep your legacy system, and also you will keep your Salesforce. And then after a few days, once everybody got used to Salesforce, that's when you will decide to retire your old application. This is how it works in real world. Now, let's say some user, one of your business analysts, or one of your tester, or one of your actual users. Okay, one of your actual users said, hey, my opportunity in old system has the amount of $10,000, but in Salesforce, I am seeing it as $5,000. Did it move over correctly? Can you confirm if the data moved over correctly? Or can you confirm me how or they might say, hey, in the old system, for example, you have opportunity name, account, and all these fields, right? They might say in the old system, we have a field called some XYZ. We have a field called some XYZ, but in Salesforce, I do not see that XYZ field. But for this specific record, they will give you an opportunity ID, or they will show you an opportunity, and they say, hey, for this opportunity, can you see and let me know what is the value in the old system? Okay. I mean, these are all valid scenarios, right? I mean, these are all like nothing is so perfect that you wouldn't run into issues. So they will come back and say, hey, this is the opportunity in Salesforce. I know this. We moved this opportunity data from a legacy system. In legacy system, we used to have some field. Can you tell me what is the value of that field? I need it for some business. So how would you solve this problem? Like, how do you make sure there is a connection between these two systems? I mean, if not direct connection, how do you make sure? Just tell me your ideas. How do you make sure, okay, this record in my legacy system corresponds to this record in Salesforce? How do you ensure that? Think in terms of primary keys. Anybody? Any idea? Did you get my question? Guys, anybody? Any ideas or? You guys get my question? in the first place? Okay. So here is what I would do. In Salesforce, I'll create a field. Okay. Okay. First of all, you have a legacy system, right? Legacy system will have a database. Okay. Of course, the data, opportunity data will be stored in a database. Now, no matter whatever the database is, wherever in the world you have a database, and if you are storing the data, that table will have a primary key. Okay. In your legacy system, there will be just like our opportunity in Salesforce, we have a 18-digit ID. In your legacy system, you will definitely have a primary key. Otherwise, how will they identify one opportunity from another? They might definitely have a primary key, okay, which might be an 10-digit number, 8-digit number, or 18-digit number, just like Salesforce. So in your legacy system, the opportunity will have some kind of ID. So what I will do is, in Salesforce, I will create a column. Okay, since we are talking about opportunities, okay, I'll just go to Setup, Object Manager, Opportunity. In the fields, I'll just click New. I'll say Text. Legacy ID. It can be anything, but for now, and then you see this, I'll mark it as external ID. Like while creating this text field itself, I'll mark this as external ID. Okay. Save. Okay. Now what I have a field called legacy ID, which I created and I marked it as external ID. So what happens now? So from my old system, while I'm doing the data load, of course, I map the legacy system's opportunity name to opportunity name, account to account, close date to close date. In the same way, I will map that in the legacy system's primary key. Like, there will be just the primary key, right? I'll map that primary key to this field while doing the data. I will not show it to the user on the page layout, but in the backend in my database, I have this. Now, when a user comes and ask me, hey, I have this field. Can you tell me what that value is? So when they show me the opportunity, I'll go check what the legacy ID for that opportunity, and in the I'll go to that legacy database and query based on that number, because I'm storing their primary key, right? When I do a query on that number, I'll be able to get that data, and then I can do a reconciliation. Oh, okay, yeah, this was the data in the legacy system. When it moved over, something missed, or the user might be wrong. Hey, the value was 3,000 in the legacy system, and even in the new system, it is 3,000. There is really nothing that changed. Okay, so that's why. So adding another column and making sure to maintain that legacy system's primary key will help us to identify the record, like what is the number for this record in that system. Okay. I mean, these are common use cases. Even if you do it like, I'm just trying to think of an example. Let's say you have some student ID. Let's assume you have some student ID, and your college might be thinking to change the format of the student ID, but they will still maintain the old ID somehow, at least until for a few days, so that in case something they want to refer back to what the old ID was, depending on the new ID, they can compare it to the old ID and get the value. Like, there are so many use cases where it is. It's just that the thing is, how do you identify that data from this data? You just maintain a common key between these two systems. Okay. Now, what is the advantage of marking something as an external ID? Just by marking as an external ID, of course, it is helping us. One way, it is helping us to it is helping us to establish a common key between these two different systems. That's number one. Number two is, I don't know if you are aware of database indexing concept. If you are aware of indexing, if you are aware of databases or SQL concepts a little bit, there is a concept called indexing. If you index a column, basically when you write queries, and if you use the indexed column in the where clause, the query return will be faster. Okay, don't worry about it. I didn't know until very recently too. So indexing is nothing but, I know they do something in the database called indexing. So just remember that if you index a column, what you call, you get it, you get the data if you use that indexed column in the where clause, the data will be written faster. Okay, that's number one, indexing. Number two is, this is the most important advantage. Remember when we were doing upsert operation, right? Okay, let me show. So when we were doing upsert operation before, if I do it on opportunity now, I'll just, I'll show you what it is. Oh, sorry. Let me just log out and log in back to data loader. I'll show you what I meant. I want to log into my Gmail. Come on. So I want to perform an upsert. I won't do it, but I'll just show you what the advantage is by marking something. You see, previously it was defaulting to ID. Now it is showing legacy ID too. So when you mark a field as external ID, you can use that in performing upsert operation. So that means while you are loading the data, if in the data load file that you have, if the data matches this legacy ID, the data gets updated. If the data doesn't match the legacy ID, the data gets inserted. Okay. So by having that external ID field, you can use that external ID field in this upsert operation, and hence, while performing data loads from third-party application or legacy databases into Salesforce, you will get an advantage there. You really don't have to deal with the 18-digit Salesforce ID, but you can deal with your own keys as well. Okay? Just remember that point. When you practice upsert operation, you will know what I meant. So just remember that external ID, like we have a field, we have text fields or number fields that we can use them as external ID field. So when you mark some field as external ID field, that field gets automatically indexed, and you can use that field in upsert operation. Okay, that's the advantage of marking some field as external ID. Any questions so far on data loader? I think I told you guys, right? Developer.workbench.com. So this is developer course or developer? Or maybe workbench.developercourse.com. Yeah, workbench.developercourse.com. So this is the same thing. It is not a Salesforce product, but it is an open source product. It's exactly the same. You can perform insert, update, upsert, undelete, delete. You can do even more things here. But you see, if you want to query accounts, you can just select the fields and hit query. It will automatically display the data from the database level. You can perform an insert operation here. like, which object you want from file. You can choose the file. Where is it? Like, you can choose this file. You can click next. You can do a field mapping, and you can perform. So this is also exactly, very exactly like data loader. But I feel for some reason I'm so used to using Workbench rather than data loader. Both are same. Both are absolutely same. It's just the comfort, For data loader, I need to download and install data loader, whereas Workbench is on demand, right? It's a cloud tool. All you do is type in workbench.developerforce.com, and you'll be able to start using it. Data loader, I need to have the data loader installed on my machine, which I hate. That's why I just use Workbench for all the scenarios. Even here, you'll be able to, download what you can perform all the operations and more, even more too. We'll talk about that when we are talking about the API callouts, integrations, and stuff. But if you are interested, you can use this workbench.developerforce.com, or you can just Google Workbench Salesforce and you'll get it. And using that tool also, you'll be able to perform all the tasks that we spoke about. The UI is a bit more easier. You'll see the queries, you will see the data structure, exactly how it is stored in the database. You'll be able to perform all those using Workbench. The only defect I see, not the defect, it's not a defect, but the only thing that I see in Workbench is, in Workbench, you will not be able to set the batch size. I don't know if they changed it now, but you will not be able to set the batch size. Remember in sales, in data loader, we have the batch size, right? But here you will not be able to set the batch size. All other things are good, like, insert null values, everything is good, except you will not be able to set the batch size. And the problem is, because we are unable to set the batch size, right? Sometimes you will be faced with scenarios where, remember I told you will run into issues like, some transaction is taking too long and you will not be able to use the batch size of 200, and sometimes you need to lower the batch size like 5, 10, or sometimes even 1, the batch size in the data loader to, make your data load successful. But Workbench doesn't have that batch size concept. It always processes in bulk. So in that case, if you have to lower the batch size and do it, there is absolutely no option but to use data loader. But, other than that, if the object doesn't have too much complex code, Workbench should be able to successfully load all the data for you. Okay. Any questions, guys? Awesome. So I'll see you guys Saturday because I'm traveling to New York tomorrow. So I'll see you guys on Saturday, same around 9:30 or 10 o'clock. We are moving into the last leg of administration where, but the most important piece, like we'll talk about profiles, permission sets, record level security. This is one of the, complex topic, but it's really an interesting and one of the most strongest features of Salesforce platform. So we'll talk about profiles, permission sets, record level sharing, and we'll do some report and dashboarding concept, and then, we can move on to the development piece. But, the last piece is the core important piece that is very specific to Salesforce platform. Okay, so far whatever we have discussed, like, data loader or databases or, the data management concepts, object relationship, all those things, most of the things are applicable for any application. Like, when I say any application, whether you go work in Java or .NET, it doesn't matter. All those things would use the same concept. Now, the profiles, permission sets, and all this, these are also in there are many tools, every application uses the same concept, but Salesforce has given lot of features out of the box. In other technologies, whatever we are going to talk about profiles, permission sets, and all that, you need to do a lot of development to be able to achieve that. But in Salesforce, these features are available out of the box, and hence, it's more useful and easier as an admin to configure those. So we'll start working on them. Okay. Any questions so far? Guys, anybody? All right. I'll see you guys and